About 7 years ago, my wife and I started this Plein-Aire group and found that there were many artists in the Michigan, northern Michigan area that enjoyed painting. And so what we decided to do was to find locations around here and go out and paint. We've been doing this now, on an ongoing basis for the last number of years. A couple of years ago, we asked the Circle of Arts as it was growing to whether we could have a show here, and they really wanted us to do that, and they decided, they asked us for this year, and here we are at this exhibit.
I only paint plein air, painting outdoors, in this beautiful Charlevoix area because the light and the shape of the trees and the shape of the sky and the shape of color is just unique to Charlevoix. There's no place else that appeals to me to paint like this. The rest of the time I paint big abstract expressionist paintings, but here I paint shape and color and the sweetness of light in this beautiful area. About 5 or 6 years ago, my husband and I decided that we had to have something to do in Charlevoix besides go to the beach. And we were both painters and began to form this group, the Plein-Aire Painters of Charlevoix. And tonight is the kind of a culmination of the work of 5 or 6 or 7 years of a fabulous group of people who I'm very honored to share this evening with and this activity with good and talented people who are wonderful friends, and this is a spectacular evening in my life. And I feel like I gave birth to yet another child besides my 3 children, this wonderful group. So it's a pleasure, and I thank the Circle of Arts and the board and all the people affiliated for making this possible. So thank you. Mwah.
Plein air painting is painting the light outdoors. Once a week on Thursday mornings, we get an email and it tells us a destination, a place that we're going to go, and we all group together and paint the same general area with our own type of painting. So some of us might use pastels, some sketch, some use oils. It's very interesting to watch how different we all work. And when we got this idea to do this display, we decided it would be really interesting to have an example of everybody painting the same thing, only with their own vision. And so we all picked the lighthouse, and you can see how different each of us sees the lighthouse. We were standing in different places, the light was changing, and we all came out with incredibly different pictures, one more wonderful than the other.
Now, my own work represents places that we've been to, both as a group and singularly. And I happen to paint in pastel, which is a medium that I like to use. I like the tactile feeling of the pastels. Here's one. If you're familiar with Charlevoix, then you know that there's a cement plant in Charlevoix. And here's my interpretation of the cement plant, which to some people is an eyesore, but to with a few strokes of the pen, you can make it a thing of beauty. So it happens to be one of my favorite. Down here is another site. It's the Railroad Depot. And it's, you know, an angular building, good colors, and has been fun to paint. Here are some scenes of Lake Michigan and surroundings down at North Point. And I'm always impressed with the clouds and the colors that I see, the multicolors. So, you know, there's just a lot of different things that one can look at. Last year, the Garden Club asked our plein-air group, the Charlevoix Garden Club, asked our group to come out and give a talk and some demonstrations at a place called Turtle Hill. And we all painted some pictures there, and this happened to be my interpretation of Turtle Hill. So I'm going to let you guys be the judge. All of these works are quite impressionistic, and found that it satisfies something in me, and once in a while someone else likes the painting, and so we're happy that we're having this exhibit tonight. So.
I'm participating in a reception, an opening of a plein-air group of artists. We paint outdoors once a week, and we do scenes from the area. And everything on this wall was basically started and completed on site, with the exception of a couple little details that I added to it when I took the painting home. I do pastels, and I also do watercolors, and do mostly pastels now because I find them a little more forgiving than watercolor, and I really find it makes it easier with my technique to work with. So when I do a painting, I start from the top, then I work down, and I took up pastels back in 2005, I think it was, and I now prefer it over any other medium. Here in Charlevoix, we have some points of interest. This particular painting is of the sand dunes and a natural beach, and it's done from an area called Boulder Park, looking across the lake, and it looks past the entrance to the harbor. And this one is taken from the depot. In the depot, they have a beautiful garden, and this is one of the features that they have at the garden. This particular painting is one I did when I was taking workshops, just learning to use pastels, and everybody finds they really like this one. It was one of my first paintings. And of course, this is the depot, which is another iconic site that everybody likes to visit in Charlevoix. And that particular painting is of my driveway in the fall.
So much for coming to this wonderful opening. I'm just thrilled, and I'm so thrilled with our plein-air artists who have put this together. This is actually, I mean, it's been an interesting show to put together because we have never had so much actual physical labor help. You know, I still help coordinate some things, but these gals have done it themselves. I just want to introduce the artists who are here, and then I also want to thank the people who helped sponsor this. Emily Perron. And Emily has been kind of the communication hub. Yeah, she keeps everybody moving along with emails and phone calls, and you know, so she's really been a driving force behind that with Jeannie Putman. Diane Mittenthal. Barb Eisenberg. Gary Eisenberg. Coltmans are here. Jan. Mike. Coltman. Bev. Phoebe. Ingeborg. I saw her.
She's here.
Yes.
Where is she?
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
There she is back there. Pat. Where's Pat? Pat. Nancy Collins. Mary Lou Sick, I saw there. Yes. And Barb Steele. Barb Steele. Hey, seriously, she was out this afternoon plucking and pruning and watering. And I mean, what has gone into this show? The 105-degree days in my storage building painting these panels. I mean, this has been a real labor of love, and it is just, I am so impressed. I mean, and I know these gals gather every Thursday morning from like May to October. They've been together, what, 5 or 6 years.
Not just gals.
And guys. In fact, I really shouldn't say that because my cousin Frank loves to paint, and I want him to join you guys. And anybody can do it with him. There's no charge. You don't have to be great. You don't have, you know, I mean, you can be an absolute beginner.
Greater by
Yes, it's the camaraderie, and they go to all different kinds of places. But I mean, they've been to Kitely Farms. They've been to various people's houses, Blossom's house, and anyway, they just have lots of fun. Eisenberg, and just out on the beaches. And one year you've gone to like farms and done purple cows, and so I mean, they really have fun, and it really doesn't matter how much or how little skill you have. It's just a fun group, and some of them are very accomplished artists and really sell a lot. That's one thing I wanted to mention too. Pretty much everything is for sale. So don't hesitate to get your wallet out, have another glass of wine, get your wallet out.
Where's John?
But they really obviously do it for the love of the art. And you know, it really, we're trying to do something really neat here, and I think we're making a lot of progress, and we're having fun doing it. So thank you for coming. You know, please make sure you sign, have a good time. Join if you haven't joined. Thank you.
My name is Jeannie Pedman, and I'm going to tell you about my painting experiences. I've been painting since I was a little girl. My dad was the one that encouraged me, and since about 1992 is when I started taking it seriously, trying harder to make things look right. When we moved to Charlevoix, I fell in love with this building, and I always wanted to paint it, and finally one day I just decided that's what I was going to do, and I did it, and I was surprised at what it came out. Yes, I know. And then this girl here, when I was driving, we were going through town one day, and I saw her standing on the corner playing her beautiful music, and I just fell in love with the scene, and I decided I wanted to paint her.
Collins. I joined the Charlevoix Plein-Aire Painters about 3 years ago. Read a little article in the newspaper, and that said they were meeting on Thursdays, so I decided to join them. I really hadn't done very much outdoor work at all before, so we go out every Thursday morning to a different location, and we paint together and critique each other's work and have a wonderful time. The thing about plein air painting is that the light will completely change in about an hour, so you have to paint very, very quickly. Also, your paints dry fast if you're working with acrylics like I do for the most part. This painting was at Farbman's horse farm. I got there early in the morning and there were these storm clouds blowing through with one horse up on the ridge, and it just took my breath away when I got out of the car. So I sat there and I painted the scene, but later on I decided it really needed a big canvas. It's just too small, you know, for something of this scope. So I went home and I decided to do it in oils on a big canvas. So I painted it and I put the horse in, and the horse was too big. So I painted him out, and I painted him again, and he was too small. So I painted him out again, and then my kids said, "Mom, your horse is gone, he ran away." So every day they would come to see if the horse was there or not. Finally, I called Beverly Eby, she's with our group, and I told her the trouble I was having, and she said, "Well, draw the horse on a piece of tracing paper and then hold them up and see what's the right size." So that's how I accomplished that. But that's so typical of this group of plein air painters, because they really teach you and help you and encourage you, and they're just a marvelous, friendly group to paint with. There's no charge, there's no membership, there's no actual formal commitment or anything. All you have to do is just show up and paint, and it really works.
I can't tell you how much the plein air painters have improved my work, because we're such a fun group and we all critique each other's work. And when I started outside with these painters about 3 years ago, I was terrified because there was so much space and I didn't know where to focus or how to do it. But I've really improved, I think, with being with them, and they're such a fun group, and we've really enjoyed putting on this show. And I was an art major in college and then retired after several years and went back to painting. They're all local. This is the local John Cross fish boat, and people think it's ugly, but I tell them that's where they get their fish for dinner, fresh fish. This is at the Cycling Salamander out of town. That's at Kitely's farm. That is Bolt's son's farm. I was up on a hill painting that. That's a little guest cottage of Earl Young's behind one of his big houses. So I really enjoyed the whole thing. And we do it for fun.
I am Diane Mittenthal, and several years ago, friends Barbara and Gary came to me and said, "We'd love to have you join us. We're doing plein air painting." And I had never done anything like that, and I was just beginning painting. And I joined them, and the first time, like everybody, I was totally intimidated, and then it got very, very comfortable. I paint in oils, and I usually paint large, and so I went out with the plein air painters and did my little sketches, brought my camera, and did a series of paintings. It's taken me 2 years to do this series of paintings. In this painting, Barbara was standing on the balcony of the Cycling Salamander thinking about what she was going to paint, and Gary had already decided what he was going to paint. It took me several months to do this painting, and I love it. And each of my paintings are a moment in time. My husband said, no matter how well you paint, if you don't have a great subject matter, the painting's not going to be wonderful. So I try and pick something that's exciting and wonderful, and then I take reality and try and improve upon it. This is Wednesday night behind the library at the jazz concert. Each Wednesday night there is a free concert behind the library, and my husband and I go, and we were sitting there, and I love Steve Stargard, and the sun was just illuminating his head, and it was so exciting, and I went, that's going to be my next painting. And so I took a photo and worked on it for a long time, and I think it's one of my favorites.